Who broke the Bank of England. When he speaks, investors listen and markets move. He is also the philanthropist who has given millions of dollars to create freedom and democracy in Russia and Eastern Europe towards creating something he calls an open society. He has written numerous books about capitalism and democracy that have drawn on his legendary success in the marketplace. In his most recent book, Open Society, Reforming Global Capitalism, he takes a critical look at the future of a globalized world and also criticizes some things he has said in a previous book. Tonight, from the 92nd Street Y in New York City, a one-hour conversation with the international investor, philanthropist, and author, George Soros.
One day, training for every job on Earth
will be available on the internet.
Are you ready?
Virtually all internet traffic travels across the systems of one company, Cisco Systems, empowering the internet generation.
Funding for Charlie Rose is made possible by Amazon.com, your online source for everything from books, music, and toys to videos, electronics, and tools.
Brought to you by the new Toyota Prius. Part gas, part electric. Nature should definitely approve.
Charlie Rose is also made possible by these funders.
And by Bloomberg, a provider of multimedia news and information services worldwide. This is Charlie Rose.
George Soros has done something that I wish more business leaders would do. He has participated in the conversation of his time. Born in Budapest in 1930, moved to England in 1947, went to the London School of Economics, which had a real influence of him, one of his mentors there. Came to the United States, made lots of money, but he has also been what I call a public intellectual. He has written books, he has written op-eds, he has taken an interest not only in affairs of business, but affairs of state. He has talked about globalization. His first book in 1987, The Alchemy of Finance. Then in 1990, Opening the Soviet System, he talked about Russia. He continues to talk about Russia and consider it in a variety of ways. Underwriting Democracy in 1991, Soros on Soros, Staying Ahead of the Curve in 95. In 1998, he wrote The Crisis in Global Capitalism, Open Society Endangered, in which he talked about capitalism that he saw failing. And now he has come back with Open Society, Reforming Global Capitalism, in which he speaks to some of the arguments he made and some of the mistakes he may have made in the first book. He is someone who has had an impact on his time, and I am pleased to talk to him this evening about business, about globalization, about finance, about politics, and about the way the world works and how he sees the future. Please welcome George Soros. Well. It's good to see you. Let me, the NASDAQ today, I'm starting with stocks. The NASDAQ today hit a 2-year low. You made a famous interview in Chile, I think it was, in which you talked about the American economy coming to a kind of hard and rocky recession. Landing, I think, is the expression we use. Right. How do you see it today?
That's the way I see it. I don't think one should be too disturbed because we are not going into a depression. We might not even be in a very severe recession at all. But there is now we are in a bear market, and the bear market has an effect in itself on the economy. So it's a self-reinforcing process. So there are things depressing the economy, but there are also forces at work that are going to keep it buoyant, because we are going into the recession with really ample monetary and fiscal tools to fight the recession.
Yeah. Are you yourself, in terms of the role that you have played as a trader, as an investor, with Quantum Fund and other vehicles, still active in the buying and selling of equities and debt?
Well,
currency?
I'm not directly active. I haven't really been on the line for the last 10 years. I was running the fund more or less single-handedly in the first 15, 20 years. Then I built up a team, and I managed to sort of get out of this rather strenuous business of running a hedge fund. But I am actually a little bit more on the line today than I was a year ago, because the key people who had been working for me left.
All right.
So
now here's my question. Having read this book, you alone will appreciate this more than anyone else. Open Society, Reforming Global Capitalism, where you respond to some of the things that you have said before. Why should we believe you? Why should we, based on what you have done in terms of acknowledging your mistakes, do you feel more fallible now in terms of your judgment?
No, I've always been fallible, and actually,
have you always felt fallible?
And I always acted fallible. Yeah. And actually, if I have a bit of an edge, it's because I know what I don't know. Yeah. Now, I did make a mistake in stepping out and predicting a serious calamity. I was carried away by forces that I could see building up, and that was a mistake. I don't normally do that. However, I always, as an investor or speculator, I always, not always, but usually I take a position. In other words, I make a bet. But I know that the bet I've made may be the wrong one. So I'm constantly on the lookout for the mistake I've made. Now, it happened to come through in print here, yes. But it comes through in real life all the time.
But are you sorry you made it? I mean, are you sorry you wrote this book at all? Do you regret writing it?
No, I don't regret writing it. I do regret
what you put in it.
Well, that particular, let's say, I got carried away. And you know, I've got egg on my face, and you know, it's, as I say, it's not an unusual position for me to be in.
And is there a philosophy here, not only about living but about investing, in that if you're going to make a bet, you ought to make a serious bet, and you ought to understand most of all the mistakes you have made before in order to be smart about the position you take?
Yeah, I think that there's a very serious, actually, philosophical point behind it, because my entire view of the world is built on the recognition that as participants, we can't act on the basis of knowledge, because knowledge requires that you need to be apart from what you are making a statement about. The statement is on the one side, the facts are on the other side. And if the statement corresponds to the facts, it's true. And if it doesn't, it's false. And that is how we can actually determine whether, you know, truth and knowledge. This is how you can gain knowledge. But when you are a participant, what you are making statements about or deciding about is not apart from your decision. Your decision is part of what you are referring to. And it's not something given about which you can establish this correspondence. So, financial markets, they are not discounting the future. They are actually creating the future, because the decisions that the market participants make actually shape the future course of affairs. So actually economics, financial economics, which pretends that it can determine or define the equilibrium, is doing something that's impossible to do. So it cannot